So here's what Alex Hormozi taught me about SMMA. So I was down in the dumps. Nothing had really changed from yesterday, but for some reason I was blue. Wasn't where I wanted to be, but I was making money and I had clients. I was making progress, right? But there was still a cloud of doubt over me. I wasn't doing 10K a month, so I decided to go on YouTube. 30 minutes later, I found myself binge watching and listening to Alex Hormozi, and what I heard changed my life. If you implement these two things into your business, your life will change as well. Number one thing is going to be exponential returns. So every day I used to have a task list. I would consist of 5 to 10 things that I wanted to work on for the day. I'd wake up at 6 a.m. and I would just start burning through that task list. Usually, about halfway through the day, get on meetings around lunch, have half the things done. But instead of eating lunch, I would, just go on calls for the day, right? Because I'd work from 6 to 12, and now it was time to do calls from 12 till 2. And after the calls, it was time to get back to work. Around 9 p.m., I was finally done my task list 16 hours into sitting at my desk with barely any food, no workout, and my task list done. Does this sound familiar to you in any way or anything that you've done in your business? Because flash forward to recent times, my task list has 1 to 3, maybe 4 things on it at the absolute max. And they're done before noon, and after that, I'm doing far better than I was at that time. But why is that? It's because of exponential returns. The quote unquote tasks on my list have higher returns than the ones that I had before. And this is applicable in your own agency. Look at your workday. You probably have, X amount of time that you dedicate towards just doing deep work. It's probably going to be about 4 hours for the average person. And some of these, tasks will deliver what I like to call Y1 results, which means put in X1 and you get Y1 out. And some will deliver Y2 plus. So they'll give you one X that you put in and you'll get multiple Y's out. And this was the mistake I was making. Instead of completing just Y2 tasks plus only, I would go and just do everything that I could think of. Then I found myself doing Y2 tasks, and then everything after that was a Y1 task. And I just go down the task list completely. But continue down the list and then reset after that, which isn't any better than, what I was doing before. And this breakthrough is when I started calculating what tasks actually have high returns and which ones don't. To give a realistic example, I asked a beginner agency friend of mine to show me his task list. Here's what it had on it. So we have website design, create a reel, post stories, scrape leads, send messages, create a sales planner SOP, and work out. Pretty solid day, right? And here's what the leverage of those tasks look like. So designing a website is Y1. You're not going to be driving any visitors to it really. Creating a reel is Y1. You don't have enough resonation to have leverage and actually sell to people. Posting stories is a Y.5. You don't have an audience. Same thing as the reel. So it's not going to be extremely high leverage. Scraping leads, and I know my face is covering this, but it's a Y25 activity. That is very high. Right? You scrape leads, you put in X amount of time, and you get out Y25. Sending messages exact same, Y25. Creating sales planner SOP. You don't have any calls booked yet. That's a Y.5. There's no reason to do that. Workout, Y25. You want to stay healthy, make you feel good. So here's how I would tweak this task list. And I'd get rid of everything but scraping leads, sending messages, and working out. It's going to be a far more productive day that's going to be more enjoyable. That is the big thing about high leverage tasks. Instead of completing the rest of those tasks, the high return activity would just be to repeat and repeat and repeat over and over again, doing these things that are actually going to give you exponential returns. So don't just go ahead and complete the website afterwards you do the outreach and your workout. Instead of doing the website, cross it off completely and go back to doing even more outreach. And I have a story to prove this. I have a friend of mine named Wyatt, and Wyatt was a complete agency beginner. Wyatt and I are good friends, and on the 20th, we sat down and decided we were going to start his agency. He only focused on high leverage activities, which was, in his case, just outreach. And 11 hours later, he had his first scheduled onboarding call with his first client. Right? It doesn't sound real at all, and I couldn't believe it either. But that's what happens when you put 10 hours into just high leverage activities. More on his story later though. I'll make a whole video on that, doing an interview and everything. So what can you take away from this? Take away that you need to identify what is a Y2 plus task. Find these, do these, and you are golden. You will have a more productive day. You're going to get more things done. You're going to get more returns out of the actual time that you put in. And a sneaky tip, if you are starting, chances are your highest leverage is going to be outreach, right? Every other, variable in your agency at this time is not going to be as important as just doing outreach. When you're beginning, that was at least mine. That was everyone that I've worked with in the first client challenge. That was why it's high leverage activity. Lesson number 2, hierarchy sales. So I remember sitting in the back of my history class trying to stay awake. My history teacher was explaining the animal kingdom, and I did not care at all. It was around 4 years later that I learned about hierarchy selling, which, if I paid attention to history, could have made a lot more sense to me a lot sooner. But what is a hierarchy? And I'll use my business definition, because a hierarchy in my eyes is, some person up here, and it goes down the list of who is, the biggest fish in the sea, I guess. And how does this apply to sales at all, right? Knowing, who's head honcho and who's the bottom guy doesn't really apply to sales, is at least what I thought until I learned this. Because understanding where you're at in a hierarchy can level up your sales. You'll have a lot more resonation when you speak with people. So let me give you an example. Let's say I'm a beginner selling a free trial, and I am on a call with the owner of a sales, or I'm on the call with the owner of a solar company. So this dude is a business vet. He's, on his third venture. He's making a lot of money. So here's what our hierarchy looks like. And I'm down here chatting to this dude selling a free trial, and he is up here because he is a big fish compared to me. So understanding that, I don't have the positioning to sell to this like a normal guy. And let me show you on MS Paint exactly what I mean. So he is up here. So let me go prospect. He is all the way up here, and all the way down here is going to be me. So if I were to ask him, and follow basic sales framework saying, hey, how would this make you feel? How long you've been in business? Start asking him questions. That really only applies when you're at least, like on equal footing and authority, when you can shoot straight bullets at people, like ask them questions, be on a level ground. But in this scenario where I'm speaking with this guy, if I shoot it straight, I'm going straight into the wall. I'm at his feet, right? It doesn't matter. So that being said, a lot of sales tactics aren't going to work if you don't understand your hierarchy and positioning. I had a very big issue with this, especially because I'm 16, right? I get on calls with people and I try these sales tactics where you're either positioning yourself as an authority and speaking down to people, or you're speaking straight to them, or, maybe slightly up. But none of these would ever actually get me to the prospect. It wouldn't resonate with them because in their eyes, I was just a kid trying too hard. And it wasn't until I learned that it's actually an advantage that I started closing any deals. And in my other videos, I talk about authenticity and transparency. That is what this is all about. So when you're speaking to a prospect, especially when you're beginning, chances are the situation is going to look like this. We're not going to shoot straight. We're going to shoot straight up. Right? And that's how we're going to speak to these people. And the best way to do that is going to be, and I can't write sideways, but I'm going to say honesty. And over here, along with the honesty, is going to be your story. And that is going to be your vehicle in order to actually speak with these people, because they can't relate to your business story. They don't really care about your system. You don't have many results to back up what you're doing. The best thing you can do is tell your story. And understanding that hierarchy, especially in sales, is very, very, very important. Because in other situations, right, recently I was chatting with an appointment setter, right, because I hire, train, manage teams, appointment setters for my service delivery. So if I understand when I'm speaking with an appointment setter, it probably doesn't look like this. Because I'm hiring them to work on a setter team with me, I'm going to be up here, and maybe not as low down, but right here would be the setter, right? Or maybe not, right? Whoever it might be, because if I'm going to be having them work for me, work with me, let's say it's a VA, right? Because setters, I'd say more on equal footing. But if we have a VA that I'm going to be having, which is a virtual assistant, you pay $300 a month and you have them complete, just input, output tasks in your business. When you're hiring a VA, you're going to be on upper footing. If a VA starts asking you consequence questions, you're going to be a little bit confused, right? It's like your little cousin, right? If your little cousin starts asking you about your life and all these things, you're going to be confused. Whereas if they just told their story, you listen to them, right? It's what you always do. So that is very important when you're actually selling. If we look at our hierarchy here, I would speak to the VA, or I'd speak to the person that I'm trying to hire somewhat downwards, right? I'd ask them questions about what they're doing, how they're going on, what their experience is, because I stand up higher on the totem pole than them. Whereas, in this situation over here, I'm the low guy. So understanding where you always stand in these, situations is super important, because you can craft your message to actually resonate with people. Because I know in a lot of situations I could have had a way better relationship, way better conversation with a lot of people if I just understood that a lot of the times I was a very small fish compared to them. If I just sat down, I just listened, I was humble, I would have known that, and I would have just learned so much more, would have soaked up, would have had a lot more connections. So don't make the same mistake I did. Understand where you're positioned in the hierarchy and leverage it in your sales using stories and authenticity. And that are the two lessons that Alex Hormozi taught me, just through watching his videos. So I hope, the value that I provided was worth the time that I stole from you, and I'll see you guys in the next video.